The morning sky above New Busan Colony looked wrong. Hanwoo stood at his office window on the 40th floor of the administration building and watched massive shadows move across the clouds. The shadows were too big to be natural. They moved in perfect lines like ships in formation. Hanwoo had been the colony administrator for 8 years. He came to this distant planet after serving 20 years in Earth's military. He knew what enemy ships looked like when they blocked out the sun. His hands started to shake as he counted the shadows. There were too many to count. The communication system in his office made a sharp beeping sound. Lee Nari's voice came through the speaker. She was the colony's communication officer, and one of the smartest people Hanwoo knew. Her voice sounded scared. "Sir, we're getting signals from orbit. Multiple large ships. They're not human ships. The signals are strange." Hanwoo pressed the reply button. "Strange how?" "They're trying to speak our language, but it sounds wrong. Like a machine trying to copy human speech. Should I put it through to your office?" Hanwoo looked out the window again. More shadows appeared between the clouds. "Yes, put it through." The speaker crackled with static. Then a voice spoke. It sounded like broken glass trying to form words. The voice was cold and had no emotion. "Small flesh of dirtball world. We are Vorthak Empire. You will surrender to us now. We give you 3 sun cycles. Then we bring pain death to all small flesh. Resistance brings more pain death. You understand small flesh words we speak?" The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. Hanwoo stared at the speaker. In all his years of military service, he had never heard of the Vorthak Empire. Earth had made contact with several alien species, but none of them had been hostile. This was different. Hanwoo pressed his emergency button. Red lights started flashing throughout the administration building. The colony's emergency siren began to wail across the city. All department heads would report to the crisis room within 10 minutes. Park So-jin arrived first. She was the chief of the Colonial Defense Force and the toughest person Hanwoo knew. She had served in Earth's Special Forces before coming to New Busan Colony. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and alert. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Unknown enemy fleet in orbit. They want us to surrender in 72 hours or they'll attack." Kim Tae-ho rushed into the room next. He was the colony's lead engineer and could fix anything. His clothes were dirty from working on the power generators. "I saw the ships through my telescope. They're huge, bigger than anything Earth ever built." Lee Nari entered carrying her communication equipment. "I've been trying to contact Earth, but something is jamming our long-range signals. We can't call for help." The other department heads filled the room quickly. Dr. Shin Byung-ho from the medical center looked worried. Bae Dong-hyun from the mining operation still wore his work helmet. Jung Soon-young, the oldest person in the colony, sat quietly in her chair. She had been a politician on Earth before retiring to New Busan Colony. Hanwoo stood at the front of the room. Everyone heard the message. "We have 72 hours before they attack. I need to know what we can do." Park So-jin spoke first. "Our defenses are limited. We have 12 plasma cannons around the colony perimeter. They're old models, designed for asteroid mining, not war. We have 6 atmospheric fighters for patrol duty. About 2,000 colonists have basic militia training." "What about weapons?" Hanwoo asked. "Mining explosives, some plasma rifles, and construction tools. Against a space fleet, we might as well throw rocks." Kim Tae-ho cleared his throat. "Our power grid is strong. The geothermal generators produce more energy than we need. Maybe we could overload the plasma cannons, make them hit harder." "For how long?" Park So-jin asked. "Even if we could hurt their ships, they can just stay in orbit and bomb us from space." The room became quiet. Everyone understood the situation. New Busan Colony had 50,000 people. Men, women, children, and elderly. They had built a peaceful community on this distant world. They grew food, mined useful minerals, and sent reports back to Earth. They were not soldiers. Dr. Shin spoke up. "Should we evacuate? Send the children away in our transport ships? Where would they go?" Jang Soon-young asked. Her voice was calm and thoughtful. "Our ships are slow. The aliens would catch them easily. Besides, this is our home now." Hanwoo looked around the room. These people had chosen to leave Earth and build something new. They had worked for 15 years to make New Busan Colony successful. They had families here, friends, and a whole life. "We're not running," Hanwoo said. "This is our home. We'll defend it, sir," Lee Nari said quietly. "I should tell you something else. The alien message wasn't just sent to us. They broadcast it on multiple frequencies. Other species in this region probably heard it too. Why does that matter? They want everyone to know they're conquering us. It's like they're showing off their power. Park So-jin stood up. Then let's give them a show they won't forget. After the meeting, Han Woo walked through the colony's main street. People were scared but not panicking. Parents held their children close. Shopkeepers closed their stores early. Everyone looked up at the sky, trying to see the enemy ships through the clouds. Han Woo stopped at the school where Choi Min-ho was helping his teacher prepare the children for emergency procedures. Min-ho was 16 and had lived in the colony his whole life. His parents died in an accident 3 years ago, but the community took care of him. He worked in the hydroponics gardens and was good with plants. "Mr. Han," Min-ho said, "is it true? Are aliens really coming to hurt us?" Han Woo knelt down to look Min-ho in the eyes. "Yes, it's true, but we're going to protect everyone." "That's a promise," Min-ho nodded seriously. "Can I help?" "I want to do something. Keep taking care of the gardens. We'll need food no matter what happens." As Han Woo walked home, he thought about the impossible situation. A colony of 50,000 people against an alien empire with massive spaceships. Every military lesson he had learned told him they had no chance. But something inside him refused to give up. That night, Han Woo couldn't sleep. He stood on his balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, alien ships waited to destroy everything he cared about. But down here, 50,000 humans were getting ready to fight back. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The second day brought new fears and strange discoveries. Park So-jin walked through the colony's defense stations before sunrise. The plasma cannons looked small and weak under the dark sky. Her soldiers worked to check every weapon and system. Most of them were not real soldiers. They were miners, farmers, and shop owners who learned to fight because someone had to. Yoon Jae-sung met her at the North Defense Station. He used to be in Earth's Special Forces like Park So-jin. Now he worked as the colony's security chief, dealing with small problems like broken windows and lost pets. Today he would have to remember how to kill enemies. "The cannons are ready," Yoon Jae-sung said. "Kim Tae-ho thinks he can make them more powerful, but they might explode after a few shots." "Better than not shooting at all," Park So-jin replied. She looked up at the cloudy sky. "Any sign of movement up there?" "They're still there. Lee Nari says her equipment detects at least 20 large ships, maybe more hiding behind the others." Park So-jin felt tired already and the real fighting had not started yet. 20 ships could carry thousands of alien soldiers. Even if each human colonist killed 10 aliens, they would still lose. As the sun rose, Choi Min-ho was already working in the hydroponics center. He liked working with plants early in the morning when everything was quiet. The plants grew in special soil that contained minerals from the local ground. The soil had pretty blue crystals in it that made the plants grow faster and stronger. Min-ho was checking the crystal formations when he noticed something strange. The crystals were glowing brighter than usual. He had seen them glow before, especially during storms, but this was different. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat. "Hey, Kwon Jung-min," Min-ho called to his friend. Jung-min was 12 years old and loved computers and electronics. He was helping to move plants to safer areas in case of bombing. "Look at these crystals. They're acting weird." Jung-min put down his plant containers and looked at the glowing crystals. He pulled out a small electronic device his father had given him for testing soil quality. When he held it near the crystals, the device made excited beeping sounds. "Min-ho, these aren't just pretty rocks. This device says they're giving off some kind of energy field." Min-ho touched one of the larger crystals. It felt warm and seemed to vibrate slightly. "They've been in our soil for years. We use them in all our gardens because they make plants grow better." "We should tell someone about this," Jung-min said. Meanwhile, in the administration building, Han Woo was meeting with Song Hye-jin. She was a quantum physicist who had given up a successful career on Earth to live a simple life on New Busan Colony. She taught science at the local school and helped design better power systems for the colony. "The alien ships are using some kind of jamming technology," Song Hye-jin explained. "It's blocking our long-range communications, but it's not affecting our local systems. Whatever they're using creates quantum interference patterns. Can you break through it?" Han Woo asked. "Maybe. But I'd need equipment we don't have. Unless..." Song Hye-jin paused and looked thoughtful. "Has anyone noticed anything strange about the local crystal formations lately?" Before Han Woo could answer, Min-ho and Jung-min ran into the building. The security guards tried to stop them, but Han Woo waved them through. Mr. Han, Minho said, breathing hard from running. The crystals in our gardens are doing something weird. They're glowing and giving off energy. Song Hyejin's eyes went wide. Show me right now. The group hurried to the hydroponics center. Song Hyejin knelt next to the crystal formations and pulled out her scientific instruments. The readings made her hands shake with excitement. These aren't just crystals, she said. They're quantum resonators. Natural ones. I've never seen anything like this. What does that mean? Hanwoo asked. It means these crystals can amplify quantum fields by incredible amounts. The energy readings are off the charts. We've been growing food on top of the most powerful natural amplification system I've ever heard of. Kim Tae-ho arrived after hearing the news. He looked at the crystals and then at his own instruments. The whole colony is built on these crystal formations. Our geothermal power plants are sitting right on top of massive crystal clusters underground. Song Hyejin stood up quickly. We need to map every crystal formation under the colony. If I'm right, we're sitting on something that could change everything. Within hours, Bae Dong-hyun and his mining crew were using their underground scanners to map the crystal networks. What they found amazed everyone. The crystals formed a connected network that stretched for hundreds of kilometers underground. The network was like a natural computer system made of living rock. It's beautiful, Oh Mi-young said. She was the colony's chief agriculturalist and had worked with the crystal-enriched soil for years. No wonder our crops grow so well here. The entire planet is alive with this energy. As the day went on, Kim Tae-ho worked with Song Hyejin to understand how the crystals worked. They discovered that the crystals could store energy, amplify it, and redirect it in focused beams. With the right equipment, they could turn the entire colony into a giant energy weapon. But we'd need to build interface systems, Kim Tae-ho said. Ways for humans to control the crystal network. And we only have 1 day left. What if we don't need complex interfaces? Young Min asked. The adults looked at the 12-year-old boy. I mean, what if people could connect to the crystals directly? Song Hyejin thought about this. The quantum fields might be able to interface with human brain patterns. It would be dangerous, but possible. That evening, Park So-jin called another meeting of the colony leaders. The room felt different now. Instead of hopelessness, there was excitement and determination. So we have a weapon, Park So-jin said. But do we know how to use it? We're learning, Song Hyejin replied. The crystal network responds to electrical impulses. Human thoughts create electrical patterns in the brain. With the right equipment, a person might be able to control the crystals by thinking. That sounds dangerous, Dr. Shin said. Everything we're doing is dangerous, Hanwoo pointed out. The question is whether this gives us a chance to survive. Yoon Jae-sung spoke up. What about tactics? Even if we have a powerful weapon, we need to know how to use it in battle. Park So-jin smiled for the first time in 2 days. I have some ideas about that. If we can make the crystals work like weapons, we can fight in ways the aliens won't expect. As night fell, the colonists worked frantically to prepare their new defense system. Kim Tae-ho and his engineers built simple devices that could connect human minds to the crystal network. Song Hyejin calculated the best ways to focus crystal energy into weapon beams. Minho and Jung-min tested which people could connect most easily to the crystals. The strangest discovery was that children connected to the crystals better than adults. Jung-min could make small crystals glow just by concentrating on them. Minho could feel the entire underground network like a warm presence in his mind. It's like the crystals are alive, Minho told Hanwoo. They want to help us. Hanwoo looked at the young man who had grown up in this colony. Minho had lost his parents but found a new family among all the colonists. Now this orphaned teenager might be the key to saving everyone. Can you teach others how to connect to the crystals? Hanwoo asked. I think so. Young Min and I have been practicing with some of the other kids. We're getting better at it. Above them, alien ships waited in the darkness. The Vorthak Empire expected the humans to surrender or die. They had conquered 12 other species using the same tactics. Overwhelming force, impossible odds, and the certainty that primitive species would give up when faced with superior technology. But the aliens didn't know about the crystals. They didn't know that New Busan Colony sat on top of a sleeping giant that was about to wake up. They didn't know that 50,000 humans were about to become something much more dangerous than they appeared. The countdown to war continued, but now the humans had hope. The third day arrived with death falling from the sky. Hanwoo stood in the colony's main command center, watching displays that showed the alien fleet moving into attack positions. 72 hours had passed since the ultimatum. The Vorthak Empire was ready to show the galaxy what happened to species that refused to surrender. Energy spikes detected from the lead ship, Linari announced from her communication station. They're preparing to fire. Park Seo-jin pressed her hands against the tactical display table. All defense stations prepare for incoming fire. Crystal network operators stand by. In the underground crystal chambers, Minho sat connected to the main amplification node. Thin wires ran from a simple helmet to the glowing crystals around him. Jungmin and 15 other young colonists sat at smaller crystal clusters throughout the colony. Their job was to coordinate the defensive network when the attack began. Dr. Shin monitored their vital signs from the medical center. Heart rates are elevated but stable. Brain activity is showing unusual patterns, but nothing dangerous yet. The first Vorthak plasma cannon fired from orbit. A beam of superheated energy struck the colony's eastern shield generator. The attack should have vaporized the entire building and everything around it. Instead, something impossible happened. The crystal network under the colony absorbed the energy blast. Minho felt the power flow through the underground formations like electricity through wires. The attacking energy spread throughout the crystal system, grew stronger as it moved, and then reflected back toward space in a focused beam. Direct hit on the alien ship, Yoon Jae-sung reported from the defense center. Their forward shields are down. Above the clouds, Vorthak Overlord Cathera stared at readings that made no sense. The primitive colony had not only survived a direct hit from their most powerful weapon, but had somehow sent the energy back at them. This was impossible. No species in their 300-year expansion had ever done such a thing. Fire again, Cathera ordered. All weapons. Destroy that settlement. 6 Vorthak ships opened fire at once. Plasma beams and energy missiles streaked down toward New Busan colony. The colonists watched their death approaching from space. Minho closed his eyes and felt the crystal network respond. The underground formations hummed with power as they absorbed attack after attack. Each blast made the crystals stronger. Each hit fed more energy into the growing defensive system. Jungmin and the other children spread throughout the colony coordinated their thoughts through the crystal network. Their young minds could process the quantum information faster than any computer. They directed defensive energy with the speed of thought and the precision of years playing video games. Kim Tae-ho watched his instruments in amazement. The power levels are incredible. We're not just blocking their attacks. We're storing the energy and making it stronger. Song Hee-jin checked her calculations again. The quantum amplification is working better than I hoped. Each attack they make gives us more power to use against them. The alien bombardment continued for 30 minutes. Explosions lit up the sky above New Busan colony. The sound of energy weapons echoed across the landscape. But when the smoke cleared, the colony still stood. Buildings were undamaged. People were alive. The impossible had become reality. Now it's our turn, Park Seo-jin said. The largest alien ship, a kilometer-long biomechanical monster that had destroyed entire worlds, moved closer to the planet for a more accurate bombardment. Overlord Cathera wanted to see the primitive settlement burn with his own eyes. Minho felt the crystal network reach full power. All the energy from the alien attacks had been absorbed and amplified. Now the sleeping giant under the colony was ready to strike back. Targeting the big ship, Minho announced through the communication system. His voice sounded different, older, and more confident. The crystal network was enhancing his abilities. Jungmin and the other children focused their thoughts on the same target. 17 young minds working together through quantum crystal technology created something new in the galaxy. They were no longer just human children. They were living components of a weapon system beyond anything the Vorthak Empire had ever encountered. The crystal network released its stored energy in a single, focused beam that stretched from the planet's surface to deep space. The beam was made of pure quantum energy amplified by millions of crystal formations. It struck the Vorthak dreadnought exactly in the center. The massive alien ship, which had survived attacks from entire planetary defense fleets, was cut in half, like paper. The explosion lit up the night sky and sent shockwaves that shook the remaining alien vessels. Overlord Cathera watched the destruction of the Empire's most powerful warship. The primitive humans had done something impossible. They had not only survived the Empire's attack, but had destroyed a dreadnought using technology that should not exist. In the colony command center, Han Wu looked at the tactical display with amazement. A single shot from their improvised crystal weapon had eliminated the aliens' strongest ship. The remaining vessels were pulling back from the planet. "Status report," Han Wu called out. "Crystal network is stable," Song Hyojin announced. "We used about 60% of our stored energy. The network is already recharging from geothermal power. All operators are healthy," Dr. Shin added. "The children are tired but showing no signs of harm from the neural interface." Minho removed his connection helmet and stood up slowly. He felt different, like he could still sense the crystal network even without the direct connection. Jungmin and the other children reported similar feelings. "We did it," Jungmin said, grinning widely. "We really did it." But Park So-jin was studying the tactical display with concern. "They're regrouping. The remaining ships are moving to a safer distance, but they're not leaving." Lee Nari intercepted alien communications. "They're calling for reinforcements. Multiple fleets are heading this way." Han Wu felt a moment of fear. They had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. The Vorthak Empire would not accept defeat from a primitive colony. They would send everything they had to crush New Busan and eliminate the threat. "How long before reinforcements arrive?" Han Wu asked. "Based on their communication signals, maybe 2 weeks," Lee Nari replied. Jang Soon-young, the elderly former politician, spoke from her chair. "2 weeks to prepare for a larger battle. But we've learned something important today." "What's that?" Han Wu asked. "We're not victims anymore. We've become something the aliens fear." Kim Tae-ho was already making plans. "We can build more crystal interfaces, train more operators, maybe even create mobile crystal weapons." Song Hee-jin nodded excitedly. "The network extends across the entire continent. We could set up defensive positions hundreds of kilometers apart." Oh Mi-young raised her hand. "What about food production? The crystal-enhanced crops could feed a much larger population if we need to bring in refugees from other worlds." Park So-jin looked around the room at her fellow colonists. 3 days ago they had been farmers, miners, and teachers facing certain death. Now they were discussing how to defend multiple planets and feed refugee populations. "We need to make a decision," Han Wu said. "Do we just defend our colony or do we try to help others?" Minho stepped forward. Even though he was only 16, the adults listened to him with new respect. His connection to the crystal network had changed him, given him insights beyond his years. "The crystal network isn't just under our colony," Minho said. "I can feel similar formations on other worlds. The crystals are connected across space somehow. If we can help other species connect to their local crystal networks, we can create a defense system that spans the galaxy." The room became quiet as everyone considered this possibility. They could go from defending a single colony to liberating entire star systems from the Vorthak Empire. Han Wu made the decision that would change everything. "Send a message on all frequencies. Any species fighting the Vorthak Empire can come to New Busan Colony. We'll teach them how to use crystal network technology. It's time to turn this from a siege into a liberation." Above them, the remaining Vorthak ships waited in orbit, no longer confident predators but nervous observers of something they didn't understand. The small human colony had become something dangerous and unpredictable. The siege of New Busan Colony was over. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin. 2 weeks after the first battle, New Busan Colony had transformed into something unrecognizable. What began as a peaceful farming settlement was now the center of a growing rebellion against the Vorthak Empire. Ships from a dozen different species arrived daily, bringing refugees, volunteers, and desperate hope. Lim Seok-jin stood beside his modified atmospheric fighter, watching alien engineers work alongside human technicians. The small ship now carried crystal-powered weapons that could punch through the armor of Vorthak warships. Lim had been a pilot in Earth's Navy before retiring to the colony. Now he led a squadron of fighters that defied every law of space combat. "The new targeting systems are incredible," said An Hyun-soo, the former colonial militia captain, who now commanded mixed-species ground forces. "The crystal network lets our pilots react faster than any computer. They can predict enemy movements before the aliens even make them." Above the planet, 3 Vorthak surveillance ships maintained a careful distance. They had watched more alien vessels destroyed in the past week than in the previous year of conquest. Small human fighters appeared from nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished before return fire could reach them. Overlord Kaithara paced the bridge of his command ship, studying reports that made no sense. The human colony was not behaving like conquered prey. Instead, they had become hunters. Worse, they were teaching other species to hunt as well. The reinforcement fleets will arrive in 3 days, his tactical officer reported. 5 dreadnoughts and 40 escort vessels. Enough firepower to crack this planet's crust. Good, Kithra replied. These humans have caused enough trouble. We will make an example of them that the galaxy will never forget. But down on the planet, Han Wu was planning something the Vorthak Empire had never experienced. He stood in the expanded command center, surrounded by representatives from species the Empire had conquered or threatened. The room buzzed with activity in a dozen different languages. The crystal networks on your worlds are dormant but intact, Song Hyojin explained to a delegation from the Keth Republic. We can teach your people to activate them, but it requires volunteers willing to connect directly to the quantum fields. The Keth ambassador, a tall being with blue-scaled skin, nodded seriously. Our young are brave. They will learn. Minho had become the colony's chief instructor for crystal network operations. At 17, he was training adult aliens from advanced civilizations. His connection to the crystal system had grown stronger every day, and he could now sense quantum networks across multiple star systems. The key is not to fight the crystals, Minho explained to a group of young volunteers from different species. You have to trust them. Let them become part of your thoughts. They want to help protect life, but they need someone to guide them. Jung Min, now 13, had designed new interface systems that could work with different alien brain patterns. His natural talent with electronics had grown into something approaching genius under the influence of crystal network enhancement. Each species connects differently, Jung Min told the technicians. Humans use emotional focus. The Keth use logical patterns. The Yiren use musical frequencies, but the crystals respond to all of them. Park So-jin reviewed intelligence reports from across the region. The Vorthak Empire was pulling ships from other conquered worlds to deal with the new Busan situation. This created opportunities for liberation that hadn't existed in centuries. We have confirmation, Lee Nari announced. Crystal networks on 7 different worlds have been activated. Local populations are fighting back against Vorthak occupation forces. The Empire is losing control of multiple systems. Han Wu felt a mix of pride and concern. They had started a galactic revolution, but revolutions brought both freedom and chaos. The Vorthak Empire would not collapse quietly. What about Earth? Han Wu asked. Any word from home? The quantum communication array is working, Lee Nari replied. I sent our technical data to Earth Command 3 days ago. They're analyzing it now. Dr. Shin monitored the health of all crystal network operators. The long-term effects are still unknown, but so far everyone is showing enhanced cognitive abilities. Improved reflexes, better pattern recognition, increased empathy between species. It's like the crystals are helping different life forms understand each other. Oh Mi-young had solved the food supply problem by expanding crystal-enhanced agriculture across 3 continents. We can now feed 500,000 people with our current production. More importantly, we can teach other worlds to increase their food security using crystal technology. The breakthrough came when Yoon Jae-sung led a successful raid against a Vorthak supply depot 2 star systems away. Using ships equipped with crystal-powered engines, the attack force had traveled faster than light and struck before the enemy could react. The quantum tunneling effect works, Yoon Jae-sung reported. We can appear anywhere in the galaxy where crystal networks exist. The Vorthak ships are too slow to catch us. Kim Tae-ho had been working on larger applications of crystal technology. I think we can build ships that are powered entirely by crystal networks. They would be faster and more powerful than anything the Empire has. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected source. Jang Soon-young, the elderly former politician, had been analyzing Vorthak communication patterns. Her years of political experience had taught her to read between the lines of official statements. The Empire is frightened, she announced during the daily leadership meeting. Their communications show panic at the highest levels. They've never faced an enemy that could strike anywhere without warning. Han Wu looked at the tactical display showing friendly forces across multiple star systems. How frightened? Frightened enough to consider using weapons they've kept in reserve. Planet killers, devices that can destroy entire worlds. The room became quiet. Everyone understood the implications. If the Vorthak Empire was willing to destroy planets rather than lose them, the rebellion faced a terrible choice. We need to move faster, Park Seo-jin said. Hit their core worlds before they can deploy planet killers. That's a massive escalation, Dr. Shin warned. We'd be attacking the heart of their empire. Minho stepped forward. His connection to the crystal network had given him insights that sometimes seemed prophetic. The crystals are telling me something. They're not just on the worlds we know about. They're everywhere. On Vorthak worlds, too. Youngmin looked excited. If there are crystal networks on their home worlds, we could activate them from here. Turn their own planets into weapons against them. Song Hyejin ran calculations in her head. The quantum entanglement between crystal networks might make that possible. But it would require enormous power and perfect coordination. How much power? An Wu asked. Every crystal network we've activated, every trained operator, every ship and weapon system, everything we have, all focused on a single moment. Lim Seok-jin spoke up from the pilot section. What about their reinforcement fleet? They'll be here in 2 days. Park Seo-jin smiled with grim satisfaction. Let them come. We're not going to be here when they arrive. Han Wu realized what she meant. Instead of defending New Busan Colony against the incoming fleet, they would take the war to the enemy's homeworlds. It was incredibly risky, but it might be their only chance to end the conflict before planet-killer weapons were deployed. Are we ready for this? Han Wu asked the room. Minho answered for everyone. The crystals have been waiting millions of years for someone to use them properly. They're ready. The question is whether we're brave enough to try. Oh Mi-young raised a practical concern. What about the people here? If we commit all our forces to the attack, who protects New Busan Colony? The colony can protect itself, Youngmin said confidently. The crystal network here is so strong now that it could hold off 100 fleets. Han Wu made the decision that would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. Signal all allied forces. We attack the Vorthak home system in 18 hours. Every ship, every weapon, every crystal network operator. This ends now. Across the galaxy, species that had been enslaved for generations prepared for the greatest battle in their history. The hunters had become the hunted. The Vorthak Empire was about to discover that some prey could bite back harder than any predator could imagine. The rebellion that started in a farming colony was about to reach the halls of power in the most feared empire in the galaxy. The final battle began not with explosions or energy weapons, but with silence. Across 17 star systems, crystal networks that had slept for millions of years suddenly awakened. The quantum connections between worlds created a web of power that stretched across the galaxy. Minho sat in the center of New Busan Colony's main crystal chamber, connected to networks on dozens of worlds through quantum entanglement. Around him, Youngmin and 43 other young operators from different species worked in perfect harmony. Their minds had become living components of a weapon system that existed in multiple dimensions. All networks are online, Minho announced. His voice carried to every allied ship and station through quantum communication. We have connection to crystal formations on 12 Vorthak worlds, including their home system. Han Wu stood in the command center of humanity's first crystal-powered warship. The vessel had been built in just 10 days using salvaged alien technology and crystal amplification systems. Around his ship, a fleet of 200 vessels from 15 different species moved toward the heart of the Vorthak Empire. Signal from Earth Command. Li Nari reported from the communication station. Admiral Chen sends his regards and says the home fleet will arrive in 6 hours. Han Wu smiled. Earth had finally understood what was happening and was sending every available ship to join the battle. But by then, the war would already be decided. Park Seo-jin coordinated the attack from her position aboard Lim Seok-jin's modified flagship. The small atmospheric fighter had been transformed into a quantum tunnel generator that could transport entire fleets instantly across space. Enemy positions confirmed, Park Seo-jin announced. The Vorthak home system has 37 major military installations and over 300 warships. They're not expecting us. In the depths of space, Overlord Cathara received reports that filled him with confusion and fear. Crystal formations on Vorthak worlds were glowing for the first time in recorded history. Energy readings were climbing to impossible levels. Somehow the human rebellion had found a way to activate dormant networks throughout the empire. How is this possible? Cathara demanded. Those crystal formations have been dead rock for 300 years. His science officer, a member of one of the first species the Empire had conquered, looked at the readings with growing excitement. Sir, I think they were never dead. They were waiting. The first phase of the attack targeted the Empire's communication networks. Song Hyojin had discovered that Vorthak technology relied on quantum field manipulation, similar to the crystal networks. This made their systems vulnerable to the same forces they had ignored for centuries. Initiating quantum disruption, Jung-min announced from his position in the crystal network, targeting enemy communication grids. Across the Vorthak Empire, military communication systems failed simultaneously. Command ships lost contact with their fleets. Orbital stations went silent. The Empire's carefully coordinated military structure collapsed in moments as quantum interference destroyed their ability to communicate. Phase 2 brought the liberation forces directly to enemy worlds. Through quantum tunnels, Lim Seok-jin's fighters appeared in the heart of heavily defended systems, striking military targets with crystal-powered precision. Direct hit on the shipyard complex, An Hyun-soo reported from his assault ship. Enemy construction facilities are offline. But the most dramatic moment came when Minho made contact with crystal networks on the Vorthak homeworld itself. The ancient formations responded to his call, awakening after eons of dormancy. The planet's surface began to glow as millions of crystals came online. "The crystals remember," Minho said, his voice filled with wonder. "They remember the species that lived here before the Vorthak came. They want to help." What happened next changed everything. The crystal networks on Vorthak worlds didn't just activate as weapons. They activated as teachers. Suddenly, every Vorthak soldier and citizen found themselves experiencing memories and emotions from the species their empire had conquered. For the first time in 300 years, the Vorthak felt empathy for their victims. They experienced the fear and pain they had caused. They understood what it meant to lose everything to an overwhelming enemy. Overlord Cathera clutched his head as foreign memories flooded his mind. He saw his own actions through the eyes of those he had conquered. The crystal network was forcing him to feel what his victims had felt. "Make it stop," he begged his officers. But they were experiencing the same overwhelming empathy. Across the Empire, Vorthak forces began laying down their weapons as they finally understood the true cost of their conquests. Dr. Shin monitored the effects from New Busan Colony. The crystal networks aren't just connecting different worlds, they're connecting different minds, creating understanding between species that has never existed before. The military victory came almost as an afterthought. Vorthak ships surrendered or fled as their crews refused to continue fighting. Military bases powered down their weapons. The empire that had conquered 12 species collapsed not through force but through sudden understanding. "It's over," Park So-jin announced from the command ship. "The Vorthak military is standing down across all systems." But Han-woo knew this was just the beginning. "Signal all allied forces. Begin humanitarian operations immediately. There will be millions of refugees, displaced populations, and damaged worlds that need help." Kim Tae-ho was already coordinating relief efforts. Crystal-enhanced food production can be established on every liberated world within weeks. "We can feed everyone while they rebuild." Oh Mi-young added, "The agricultural techniques we developed can turn any world into a garden. No one needs to go hungry ever again." As news of the victory spread, something remarkable happened. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together. The crystal networks had created connections between minds that transcended old hatreds and fears. Jang Soon-young watched the political developments with satisfaction. 17 species are sending delegations to establish a new galactic government. They want it based here on New Busan Colony. "Here?" Han-woo asked in surprise. "Where else? This is where the liberation began. This is where humans proved that any species can rise above its limitations." 3 months later, Han-woo stood in the same spot where he had first seen alien ships threatening his colony. Now the sky was filled with peaceful vessels from across the galaxy. New Busan Colony had become the capital of a free galactic alliance. Minho, now 18, led the Crystal Network Institute that trained operators from hundreds of species. Jung-min, at 14, designed communication systems that allowed perfect understanding between any form of intelligent life. "The networks extend beyond our galaxy," Minho reported during a council meeting. "There are other civilizations out there, some that need help, others that might threaten the freedom we've built here." Lim Seok-jin commanded the Galactic Defense Force, a fleet of crystal-powered ships crewed by volunteers from every member species. "We're ready for whatever comes. The galaxy has learned to defend itself. Song Hyejian had established research centers on 50 worlds, studying how crystal technology could improve life for everyone. We're just beginning to understand what these networks can do. They might be the key to immortality, faster than light travel, even communication with other dimensions. As Han Wu walked through the colony that evening, he marveled at how much had changed. Children from a dozen species played together in the streets. Markets sold goods from hundreds of worlds. The air hummed with languages from across the galaxy, but the most important change was harder to see. The crystal networks had connected minds across space, creating understanding and empathy where there had been fear and hatred. War was becoming impossible when enemies could feel each other's pain and hope. Li Nari's voice came through the communication system. Incoming message from Earth. Admiral Chen requests permission to establish a permanent Earth fleet base in our system. Han Wu smiled. Tell him we'd be honored, but remind him that this isn't a human colony anymore. It belongs to everyone who believes in freedom. That night, Minho stood in the crystal chamber that had become the heart of galactic civilization. The glowing formations pulsed with the thoughts and dreams of trillions of beings across the galaxy. Through the quantum networks, he could sense the hopes of species on distant worlds, the joy of liberation, and the determination to build something better. The Vorthak Empire had come to destroy a small human colony. They couldn't imagine that they would awaken something far more powerful than any military force. They had awakened the potential for understanding, cooperation, and growth that existed in all intelligent life. The siege of New Busan Colony was remembered as the day the galaxy learned to rise above its limitations. And at the center of it all, a group of humans who had refused to surrender when facing impossible odds had shown the universe what it truly meant to be human. They were not the strongest species, or the smartest or the most advanced, but they were the ones who never stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today. And in the end, that belief had been enough to change everything.